OK, let's get more now on that independent review of the Health Services Union investigation. It found several flaws in the way that probe was conducted. Former Federal Labor MP Craig Thomson says he's been vindicated by the review.
I think it's also a great embarrassment to the coalition I did happen to watch the press conference of Senator Abetz and Senator Ronaldson, and can I say that they are really clutching at straws in relation to the response that they put out. This KPMG report clearly shows what I said here in Parliament, that this was a flawed report right from the start. They make it clear that the evidence has been based, the so-called evidence has been based on what are now discredited sources.
Craig Thomson, and he'll be joining us here on ABC News Breakfast in about an hour's time. But joining us now is the Workplace Relations Spokesman for the Opposition, Senator Eric Abetz. Senator Abetz, good morning. Do you believe Craig Thomson has been vindicated by this report?
Good morning. Good to be on the program. No, Craig Thomson has not been vindicated. If anything, the report suggests that Craig Thomson is a lucky man, because if Fair Work Australia had been properly resourced and properly qualified to undertake the investigation, they would have undoubtedly uncovered a lot more, would have got onto the situation a lot earlier, and of course things would have been a lot further down the track than they are today. OK,
what should the government do regarding Fair Work Australia in the wake of this finding?
The Coalition about 4 months ago put out a very strong policy saying what you need is a separate registered organisations commission which is independent of Fair Work Australia, that has the wherewithal and the capacity to undertake these investigations. We also propose substantial fines of, like for company directors, of $220,000 fines and 5 years imprisonment. Bill Shorten's very limp response was to say, well, if you rip off a union to the tune of $400,000, the penalty maximum under Bill Shorten is $6,600. Clearly not good enough. The Coalition has got its response out there. It's been out there for months, and it's now been vindicated by the KPMG findings.
And one of the important points is that it found all of these holes in the way the investigation was conducted, but KPMG, Eric Abetz, didn't dispute at all the key findings of that inquiry, in that Craig Thomson had allegedly misused more than $500,000 of union money.
The findings of Fair Work Australia stand. Was Fair Work Australia tardy? Was it slow? Was it clumsy in its investigation? I think we can answer positively to all that. But having said that, the findings remain, and if anything, more findings could have and should have been made against Craig Thomson and the Health Services Union. So rather than vindicating him, Craig Thomson should recognise that he is a very lucky man, that it was Fair Work Australia investigating this matter rather than any other agency, and that is why the Coalition's view that these matters should have been referred to police about 2 or 3 years ago are now completely vindicated.
At the same time, Eric Abetz, the KPMG study has pulled the opposition up pretty quickly in that it has found no evidence at all of political interference in Fair Work Australia's investigation, something you and your leader have been claiming for some time now.
That's not quite right. What KPMG found on page 69 was that Ms Gillard, and she was the minister at the time, her chief political advisor rang the registrar of the Australian Industrial Relations Commission, not during office hours but after hours, to ascertain whether or not Craig Thomson was involved in the HSU investigation. I think Ms Gillard needs to answer the question, why did she direct her chief political advisor to make that telephone call? Why was it so urgent that it had to be done after hours to the registrar at home? And indeed, why did she do it at all? Because that's the sort of interference that should not be occurring in these sort of investigations. Having said that, we do accept that that phone call did not have an impact on the final conclusions of Fair Work Australia, but Ms Gillard's chief political advisor should not have made that call.
Yeah, OK, you argue that, but as you said towards the end of your answer there, that the finding, despite what you said at the start of your answer, KPMG found no evidence of political interference, full stop.
Well, clearly there was, political interference in as much as Ms Gillard's
This is despite what KPMG says. You agree with every other aspect of the KPMG report, bar this one?
If I can finish, the chief political advisor to Ms Gillard clearly rang the registrar at home after hours to find out if Craig Thomson was involved. Now, I think most of your viewers would agree that that is interference from the highest office to the registrar. Having said that, it had no impact, and we accept that. It had no impact on the final results, but it was clearly an interference that should not have occurred, and Ms Gillard needs to answer as to why she instructed her chief political advisor to make that telephone call and what the purpose of it was.
And just quickly before you go, Senator Abetz, Tony Abbott says Julia Gillard's conduct as a lawyer at Slater and Gordon in the early 90s is, in his words, a subject of legitimate interest. Now, we had the former senior partner there, Peter Gordon, saying yesterday he found no evidence at all of any wrongdoing by the Prime Minister. Why is it, in Mr Abbott's words, a subject of legitimate interest?
The full interview that was conducted, or a redacted version of it, but a lengthy version of the interview Ms Gillard had with Slater and Gordon, is in today's Australian. I've perused that briefly before coming on, and quite clearly there are matters of concern, and that is outlined in the interview.
What's the concern?
Oh, the concern is that she did not open a file, and when she was asked about why she didn't, she said there's no scientific explanation. When she was asked by the media, she claimed she was young and naive at the time. For heaven's sake, she was a partner in the law firm at the time. At her age, at that time, I also was a partner in a law firm, and I never held myself out to the public as being young and naive, and that is why people ought to come to me for legal advice. So Ms Gillard has some explaining to do, and I just remind your viewers, these aren't coalition allegations. These were brought up by her former Attorney General, Rob McClelland, and people within the trade union movement, and investigative journalism has now exposed this, as a result of which Ms Gillard does have many questions to answer.
Eric Abetz in Canberra, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.